O King Pariksit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists, who are above the regulative principles and restrictions, take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. Please repeat. O King Pariksit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists, who are above the regulative principles and restrictions, take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. Purport. The topmost transcendentalist is a liberated soul and is therefore not within the purview of the regulative principles. A neophyte who is intended to be promoted to the spiritual plane is guided by the spiritual master under regulative principles. He may be compared to a patient who is treated by various restrictions under medical jurisdiction. Generally, liberated souls also take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities. As mentioned above, since Narayan, Hari, the personality of Godhead, is beyond the material creation, his forms and attributes are not material. The topmost transcendentalists, or the liberated souls, realize him by advanced experience of transcendental knowledge, and therefore they take pleasure in the discussion of the transcendental qualities of the Lord's pastimes. In the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 4, Text 9, the personality of Godhead declares that his appearance and activities are all divyam, or transcendental. The common man who is under the spell of material energy takes it for granted that the Lord is like one of us, and therefore he refuses to accept the transcendental nature of the Lord's form, name, etc. The topmost transcendentalist is not interested in anything material, and his taking interest in the matter of the Lord's activities is definite proof that the Lord is not like one of us in the material world. In the Vedic literatures also it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is one, but that he is engaged in his transcendental pastimes in the company of his unalloyed devotees, and that simultaneously he is present as the Supersoul, an expansion of Baladev in the heart of all living entities. Therefore, the highest perfection of transcendental realization is to take pleasure in hearing and describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and not in merging into his impersonal Brahman existence, for which the impersonalist monist aspires. Real transcendental pleasure is realized in the glorification of the transcendental Lord, and not in the feeling of being situated in his impersonal feature. But there are also others who are not the topmost transcendentalists, but are in a lower status, and who do not take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities of the Lord. Rather, they discuss such activities of the Lord formally, with the aim of merging into his existence. Om Gyantimarantasya Ganandhyana Shalakaya Chakshushun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master, he has forced my eyes open with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore I offer my most respectful obeisances unto him. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhayavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. O King Pariksit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles and restrictions, take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. topmost transcendentalists have achieved such a position through three methods. There's the Nitya Siddha, the Kripa Siddha, and the Sadhana Siddha. The Nitya Siddha is a personality perfected eternally. Srila Prabhupada, he was questioned about his past lives, his past activities. And he wasn't so sure about that, but from his, well, he wasn't able to express or wasn't able to satisfy the question of the audience. But he did say that in this life, as far as he can remember, he never forgot Krishna. As a child of about 4 or 3, he remembers playing with his sister on the roof of their apartment. They were flying kites, and they would try and compete who could get their kite highest in the sky. And they were calling out to Krishna. They were praying to Krishna at that time, even so at 3 years old. And even as an infant, Prabhupada was going, and in his perambulator, he was before the deities and he was gazing on the beautiful form of the Lord. So it was an indication that he was always surrounded by Krishna consciousness. His parents were pure devotees. So he, Nitya Siddha, always perfect. Then there's the Kripa Siddha. Kripa means mercy. Mercy comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead or from the devotees. That by the mercy of the devotees, or the mercy of Krishna, one can become perfect. And the Sadhana Siddha, the third category of transcendental. The Sadhana Siddha, sadhana is regulated practice, is regulated, prescribed rules and regulations. So that's the category that most of us fall into. That we have to follow restrictions, rules and regulations in order to become perfect. Because at the moment, we're imperfect, we're out of control, we're controlled by our senses, we have no real depth of understanding within our mind, we're scratching the surface of reality. So by practicing some rules and regulations and restrictions, then we can rein in the wild horses of the senses and bring the mind under control. The Sadhana Siddha, you and I, practicing rules and regulations, we can have hope that we can get mercy, the Kripa Siddha. But we don't rely upon that. It's as though throughout one's activities, one just goes along doing one's business, and somebody might recognize this person is worthy of some special upliftment. Just as in somebody they do some great social service or something of benefit to humanity, and they'll get an honorary degree. But you can't expect that to happen. You can't expect, and if you do expect, then without putting an effort in the sadhana, that will highly unlikely, that circumstance that you'll be benedicted like that. So the Sadhana Siddha, and here are symptoms of in this purport of the difference between the topmost transcendentalist, who was a liberated soul, and those who are afflicted by a less than perfect understanding, the impersonalist, or somebody who's a materialist. They don't derive pleasure from discussing just about Krishna. They want to talk about themselves. What's the most dear thing to any of us? Ourself. If you want to get somebody's attention, you want to make them feel good, then hear about them. Hear about their glories. So that's an indication. It's a litmus paper test. What are we interested in? What are we interested in hearing about? Who are we interested in associating with? And that you can, if you don't really understand much about yourself, you can look around at your association, because that says everything. Who do you feel comfortable associating with? Who do you feel comfortable rubbing shoulders with? So if that's not advanced devotees, if it's not people who are always sacrificing their life for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that's an indication of our level of advancement. There's three classes of devotees. There's the Uttama Adhikari, there's the Madhyama Adhikari, and there's the Kanishta Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari is a devotee who has a glimpse of the Supreme, but they themselves are still very much the focus. It's me. I've come to the Lord. I'm the one who's coming to. I've seen the Lord. I'm here in the temple with the Lord, and that's the perfection of my life. If somebody comes and tries to distract them, dissuade them, then they'll remain convinced that that's success. But if somebody comes and gives them something better, their faith in the depth of the knowledge about the Lord is flickering. They can be changed. Their faith is breakable. Somebody comes and offer an easier way to associate with the Lord. You can just eat prasadam all day. You can become a member of the ecstasy crew and just always know where the nectar is. So then they don't develop a service attitude. Higher than that, the Madhyama Adhikari, they can discriminate. They can see the value of the devotees. They can see the risk of associating with non-devotees, and they avoid the envious. And they understand who is innocent. They don't block out somebody who's not expressing devotional tendencies. They haven't come to the temple. They're not as good as me. I'm just here in the temple with me and God, me and Krishna. No, there are other people who are struggling, who are trying to get there. So they'll reach out. They'll give mercy to the innocent. This is quite an art. This is the art of the preacher. Sometimes the people who are not looking like devotees or acting like devotees or being spiritual, they might be expressing themselves in something that suits them. But if you can see underneath, even they might be haranguing, they might be criticizing, they might be blaspheming, but they still could be innocently doing that. They don't have any conviction to it. They're getting on the hobby horse, and they think that's what you do. You bag religion. Through lack of knowledge. So they could still be classified as innocent. They could still be worthy of getting the mercy of association with devotees, prasadam, hearing about the topics of the Lord. So somebody who's on that level, the Madhyama Adhikari, the preacher, their faith becomes fixed. The depth of it, based or evidenced by how much they can describe, how much knowledge they've got, is may or may not be there. You can ask them a question and they might not be able to practically demonstrate the answer to your questions. But they're convinced, they're fixed. Their faith is unbreakable. The topmost devotee, the Uttama Adhikari, they have unbreakable faith, and at their fingertips all of the conviction and all of the knowledge, all of the answers to anything. And it can be expressed in a very non-threatening, a very non-critical, a very uplifting way. So you can always rely upon them. Another quality which is evidence, which is displayed by these topmost transcendentalists, is that they are devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Rather, they'll always take upon themselves that everybody else is engaged in their proper activity, they're following Krishna's direction properly, but so I don't need to interfere with them. I don't need to start pointing out their deficiencies. And so they're very supportive. So if we can see in our character any of these qualities, that we're just exclusively, it's me, I'm the one, it's me, I've connected with Krishna, I've connected with the Supreme, or that I know there's other people and I can help them and I want to take their association, but I don't have all the answers. And still I have the propensity to criticize others. Then that's a bit of an indication that I'm not on the topmost transcendental level. I might even enjoy discussing the pastimes. I might be deriving pleasure. But is my conception of who I am at that level? That I'm completely surrendered to Krishna and to his devotees and to service and to gaining knowledge. I can hear from anybody. Chanakya Pandit says that a wise person can take lessons from a fool. They can see the wisdom in like that. They can get a good wife from a low-class family. They can derive value from garbage. So the topmost transcendentalist is a liberated soul, and therefore not within the purview of the regulative principles. If we do discern in our being a tendency towards any of these other things, then that indicates that we should still be very happy to take shelter of the regulative principles, take shelter of the restrictions. Not that we discard them as, I'm already above that. Because as long as we have a material body, we have material needs, and we have material desires, then we need to have some restriction in how we try and fulfill our needs. The guidance of the transcendentalists and their example is very helpful to give us direction and to know that there are such people who are not bound up like us, that can give us guidance, and that the pleasure that they derive is an indication of something that we can also achieve. At the moment our pleasure is limited. We might be fixed for some time and we're committed to some spiritual practices. After a while though we get tired and we've got to take time out and we have to resort to some other alternative activities. Whereas somebody who's completely fixed, they just 24 hours a day. They're absorbed in hearing about Krishna, describing Krishna, working for Krishna's pleasure. This takes a lot of practice, a lot of experience, and a lot of taste, a lot of upliftment. Sometimes we're in a kirtan and we're involved in the kirtan and we want to. I just want to fly around the room. I just want to enjoy. That's not our province yet. We haven't qualified ourselves to get to that, because even in the midst of such an uplifting environment, these nasty thoughts come into our mind. Why are they doing that silly thing? Why don't they recognise me? I'm pure. So there's all these discolorations, these distortions that are still present within our consciousness, and that requires adherence to the restrictive principles and regulations in order to cleanse them. The first verse, all glories to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart. Cheto darpanam marjanam, of all the desires which have accumulated like dust for years. So those things, when you start cleaning, sometimes you don't clean. You think, you're satisfied. If you're satisfied with a mess, then that's an indication that your heart is pretty dirty. You can tolerate being in a mess. And as soon as you start to see the mess and you start to do something about it, then what happens is it becomes visible that there's so much mess here. You start cleaning and think, there's so much. You start organising, you start sorting things out, and there's another area. The cupboard is full of all sorts of dirty things, which I have to deal with. But it's satisfying at the end of the day, if you persevere, that you've made headway, even if it's just a little headway. The cleansing process it takes time. So the same thing with chanting, the same thing with practicing devotional service. The example was given here of a patient who is treated by various restrictions under medical jurisdiction. One illness, very specifically related to chanting, is described as jaundice. You get jaundice, and then after a while your skin goes yellow, your eyeballs go yellow, your liver's complaining, and you get weak and tired, and all the symptoms of flu and other things which are going around. So the liver's being attacked. So the proper physician with Ayurvedic knowledge, he'll tell you that the cure for jaundice is sugar candy. So diligently you follow the medical practitioner, you take some sugar candy and you go, ugh, this is bitter. Medicine generally is bitter, but it's bitter. So yes, that's correct. Everything tastes bitter as well because everything's gone yellow inside. Your liver's just gone into that mode. But if you keep taking the sugar, then slowly, it will become sweet again. That sweet taste will come back. The liver will settle down. It needs nourishment. Same thing with chanting Hare Krishna. Same thing with engaging in devotional service. Same thing with engaging in spiritual practices. Because we are diseased, and the symptom of the disease is we've got a material body and we're here in the material world. So we're sick. We want to get out of here. We want to enjoy unlimited pleasure, which is only available to the topmost transcendentalists, to the pure souls. So we have to keep taking the medicine. We start chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna in the beginning, it's sweet, it's nice. Some people can't say Hare Krishna. Some people can't chant Hare Krishna. They block their ears. They just... My father was a psychiatrist, and when I first joined up, I used to tell him, you should tell your patients to chant Hare Krishna. And he said, I'll never chant Hare Krishna. So I got an indication that he wasn't a complete demon. He's an avowed atheist, but he's still sympathetic to me, and he supports me a little bit. So if you keep taking the medicine, if you keep chanting Hare Krishna, then a natural taste awakens. Along the way, as you're indulging in or you're taking advantage of these practices, then the dirty things will appear. Oh, I've been reading. It keeps telling me to surrender. It keeps telling me to sacrifice. It keeps telling me to become interested in another state of reality. All those things that I've been holding near and dear, I've got to let them go. Oh, I've had enough. I don't want to do that for now. But okay, so we're turning our back on unlimited pleasure, unlimited happiness. We're turning our back on the opportunity to see Krishna in his topmost glories as our ever well wisher, as our greatest friend and benedictor. So we can weigh up. Do I want to stop here? Do I want to just get like a half measure? Do I just want to be able to discuss formally? I know stuff about Krishna. I know stuff about this, and I can talk about that. And there are many academics who are studying these literatures, and you can sometimes see them in the hotel discussing the 6 Goswamis and the most elaborate topics over a glass of beer. They haven't changed their habits, they haven't changed their lifestyle. It's just a formal way of discussing these topics. And so their goal is, if anything, just to merge into the effulgence of the Lord, that impersonal understanding. So we don't necessarily have to turn our back. We can just understand that there's nothing wrong with the process. There's just obstacles. We're clinging on to things which we've become used to for many, many births. We've been in this material world for many, many births. And that's just become habit. Now, by some great fortune, we've been able to come in contact with this process of Krishna consciousness, of pure devotional service. So having faith, which is an indication we've risen up off the neophyte stage to the Madhyama stage, we keep on engaging in the process. We keep following the restrictions. We keep taking the sugar. We keep chanting the holy names. And eventually our heart becomes purified. And the pleasure of purification, it will become tangible. So much so that eventually we won't be able to stop chanting. One devotee, he came and he expressed to his spiritual master, "Oh, I can't chant 16 rounds. I've got to chant more. I can't stop at 16 rounds a day. I just can't help myself. I'm just so happy. So I want to chant. But then there's always obstacles that get in the way. Because we have a prescribed number of rounds that we want to chant, or we're supposed to chant. We take vows that we'll chant every day. So sometimes there are obstacles which get in the way. So with determination, we push through those obstacles. Or we understand that we have to depend more on the Lord. I had 1 week I was going out and preaching, and I thought I was chanting such good rounds. I was really, really satisfied with myself. And I'm the one, I'm chanting good rounds. I'm pleasing Krishna. But for that whole week, I couldn't distribute anything. Had zero results. And I came back to the temple, and Sadhbhuj was there. He was walking across the car park just as I arrived. And he reached down and he picked up a piece of paper. And he said, "Just see, I'm so fortunate Krishna's allowed me to do service." And I realised, wow, that's what I've done wrong. I wasn't submissively calling out and asking to engage in this process. I thought, I've got it. And it was such a relief, because I thought I'd been, rejected and neglected. I thought I was doing so good, but it was just my attitude was slightly off. I was slightly wrong. So we have to be able to see the results of our activities. We have to be able to see the fruits. We have to be able to see what we are achieving. We can't be impersonalists and say it's all one. It's all just happening, it's all going on, and I'm detached. No, we have to be aware of what is the value, what's the benefit of what we're doing. And it's tangible. If we can't see, because self-realization it's a difficult, it's a very subtle process. Sometimes we don't see, or we're not aware that we've changed. Somebody else can help us. Somebody else can point out, yeah, before you were like this. Remember, you were attached to so many things, and there's this, and now you're happy, you're healthy, you're clean. So we can find out. Oh, yeah, actually I am making advancement. Actually I have been here. And all those things which are troubling me, they're not troubling me anymore. Oh, I think I'll stay a little bit longer. I'm happy, it's working. It's working. Even though it seems to be like I'm going backwards. I'm not developing some of the traits and the skills which were highly advertised in other fields. And ultimately, to get that pleasure, ramante. Ramante is the Sanskrit term. Yeah, ramante. And that also is present in the Bhagavad Gita, ramate. The topmost transcendentalists, they understand that everything in the material world has a beginning and an end. So with intelligence, there's a beginning and an ending. They want not just temporary pleasure, flickering pleasure. They want anandam, tvananta anandam. They want unlimited pleasure. That's real happiness. Not the pleasure that's derived from just the rubbing together of the bodies, or the eating of abominable foodstuff. They want proper pleasure. People get satisfied. They get to a certain. This is good. I'm doing pretty good. but it's temporary, it's limited. Whereas unlimited pleasure, which is available for those who have understood what's the proper purpose of the human form of life, is to perform austerities. Tapo divyam putrika, yena satyam, sudyad yasmed brahma sokyam tonantam. Unlimited spiritual pleasure. That's our birthright. And we get a little glimpse. We don't deserve it. Sometimes we begin and we chant Hare Krishna, we do some service, and the reciprocation is just makes your hair stand on end and tears flow from your eyes, and you feel very blissed out. So it's a little drop of mercy, a little bit of kripa. But in order to sustain that, in order to make it deeper, in order to become a regular practice, we have to understand that it could take a long time, and it requires these regulative principles and restrictions. And to not sell ourselves short, not to buy into some other cheap promise. You can be happy. There are yogis, there are gurus who are teaching, I'll just give me some money, I'll give you this mantra, and if you practice this mantra for 6 months, you'll understand that you're God. It's not so easy. So we have to be able to discriminate, we have to be able to think, we have to have some knowledge. If you want to go shopping for gold, Prabhupada makes a nice, if you don't have information of what is real gold, then you can go into a shop. One man in India, he went into a shop and he said, I've got 10,000 rupees. I want to buy 10,000 rupees worth of your best gold. He was in a fruit shop or something like that. He wasn't in the right place. So the guy said, yeah, I've got something nice out the back. And he showed it to smell it. It looks nice. And no, the test for gold is you get a gold testing stone. And you have to have the real thing. And then you rub your type of gold against that. And you see if the lines are the same colour. There's a method. If you don't know that method, then you'll get ripped off. You get sold out, sold short. So you have to understand, you have to have the knowledge, you have to have the information. And that's another statement here, that the topmost transcendentalists, or the liberated souls, realize him by advanced experience of transcendental knowledge. It's not just technological knowledge, it's just not just a few ideas, but advanced experience. They're steeped in that knowledge. They swim in that knowledge. They live in that knowledge. And the beginning of knowledge is humility. The beginning of knowledge is humility, that they're humble about it. They're not just using it as party games or something to show off their eloquence or their skills, their ability. So the topmost transcendentalists, they are advanced, they have an advanced experience of transcendental knowledge. And the basic transcendental knowledge, the beginning transcendental knowledge, which is quite elevated, is I'm not this body. I'm not this body. That's the first stage, that's confidential knowledge. I'm not this body. Most people think I'm the body. This is me. I'm powerful, I'm attractive, I'm male, I'm female, I'm young, I'm old. So I'm not this body. That's the beginning of transcendental knowledge. After some time, then that's available for most transcendentalists. Then the more advanced level, more advanced knowledge, more confidential knowledge is I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm not this body, I'm spiritual, but so what? What do I do with it? How do I act as a spirit soul rather than as a material body? So I'm a servant of Krishna. And the most confidential knowledge is, who is Krishna? What is the nature of my relationship with Krishna? So who am I is one of the first questions that we ask when we come to a stage of doubt about this present situation we're in. And if we can get the answer, I'm not this body, that's very significant. Higher than that is, I'm a servant of Krishna. And then eventually, in due course of time, by advanced experience in this transcendental knowledge, one can understand the nature of Krishna and the nature of our relationship with Krishna. The beginning of that knowledge is Well, I'm not this body. I'm small, I'm tiny, and God is great. That's advanced knowledge. God is great. In due course of time, we can understand how great is God. And that makes us even more humble, makes us realize even more how small we are. So this is great. This is wonderful. The opposite of that is, I am great. I am the one. So how long can you sustain that? How long can you live in that mood? You keep on getting knocked about. You get a toothache. Well, I've got problems. I'm not so great. I'm a victim of the material energy. In due course of time, this is just my Leela. This is just my transcendental pastime. In due course of time, I will realize that I'm God. No, God is always God. The Supreme is always the Supreme. We're always part and parcel. We're just a minute portion of the Supreme. So we keep on applying that knowledge, then we'll, by realizing how great God is, we'll derive pleasure from being able to be connected properly with Krishna and be able to engage in his pastimes. That's the greatest pleasure. To the cowherd boys, they wake up in the morning and they just can't wait to go and see Krishna, to help Mother Yasoda bathe and dress Krishna, so they can then spend a day out in the fields herding cows and playing with Krishna. So that's, I remember reading in the Nectar of Devotion, there was a description like that, and it sounded like, God and the boys, they're just playing football out in the fields. But why was it so attractive? Why was it so? That's really amazing. That's what we can do, because this personality is the Supreme that we can play with. We can engage in pastime. He's unlimited. They get hungry and they go to Krishna and say, Krishna, I'm hungry. So what do you want to eat? Oh, mangoes. So it's the wrong season. So Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, he found a mango seed and he put it in the ground, and suddenly there was this mango tree, and the mangoes on it were the size of footballs, and they had very little pips and practically no skin. And every day for a year they would just go there and they would eat these mangoes and be completely satisfied. So the topmost transcendentalist, the topmost mystic, the topmost beloved person, that's Krishna. And so we've just begun on the shore of the ocean to get a little bit of a taste of what devotional service, what Krishna is about, and so we've got all this information to guide us, and the encouragement of other devotees to support us in our journey, that we can eventually become situated on the topmost platform of a liberated soul, a topmost transcendentalist. And then by hearing, the process from the beginning to the end is hearing. Hearing, and then repeating what we've heard, sharing what we've heard with other people. And that by sharing, then the quality of that hearing, it becomes deeper and deeper and deeper. We realise what's happening. So I'll just read the verse again and see if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to discuss. O King Parikshit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists, who are above the regulative principles and restrictions, take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. Cruz, you going for the microphone?
So, recently I was listening to a lecture from Guru Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, was talking about Srila Prabhupada's Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and it's in his Bhakti Tali, it's like some letters and essays, and he's explaining that in the Empire, the Kanishka Adhikar, even he can deliver 3 generations from his family. And then the Madhyamadikar can deliver 14 generations. And then the Uttamadikar like over 1.5 million kilometers like radius from where he is situated. He's preaching that they can also be delivered.
Yeah, the presence of a pure devotee is extremely powerful. So that's the potency also of devotional service. Krishna, he becomes present, he becomes manifested where devotees are discussing him. So if on all those different levels, if anybody's discussing Krishna, then that becomes attractive and that becomes powerful and that becomes uplifting. If one chants one name of Krishna, then he can be delivered from more offences than it's possible for him to perform. More sins, just the power of Krishna's holy name. And in order for that name to be spread, in order for the name to exist, then it's present within the hearts of pure devotees. So to come in contact with a pure devotee is extremely rare. Sa Mahatma Sadulabha. But they have that benefit, they have that potency, they have that power. It's uplifting. So deliverance, yeah, if you want to help others, then become a devotee. The influence of that in pleasing Krishna, who's the ultimate controller of everything, is far outweighs anything else. And all those different levels, there's encouragement to keep on going. Yeah, the attitude of the sadhana siddha is that, I don't deserve it, but I know this is a bona fide process, this is bhakti yoga, this is devotional service, there's potency in these processes, so I'm fortunate I've got that, so I'll just cling to that, and I'll work on that. And hope against hope in the back of our heart that we'll get some support, we'll get some mercy. Whereas if we just think, okay, it's easy, it's cheap, and we can just use these other processes, and are not prepared to put in the hard effort, then it might happen or it might not happen. Yeah, easy come, easy go. Whereas hard-earned, hard fought-for gains stay with us. The hard lessons. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.